So welcome to another Econelastic video. This video will be on the circular flow of goods and income. So the aim of this video is for you to understand the basic circular flow of goods and income, and therefore the relationship between producers and consumers. So the relationship between producers and consumers can be represented in the flow diagram that you can see on your screen now. So consumers of goods and services are labelled as households, and producers of goods and services are labelled as firms. So let's focus on the top half of the diagram first. Households demand goods and services, and firms supply goods and services.
So if we still lived in a barter economy, people would exchange goods and services directly with one another. There would be no exchange of money. Workers would be paid with bundles of goods or a service in return for their labour. However, we've actually evolved now to live in a money economy. So this enables firms to exchange goods and services for money. This obviously has allowed the economy to grow at a lot faster rate. So for example, if you went to a restaurant and ate a meal, you would, in a barter economy, have to maybe do the dishes or clean the restaurant to the same value that you got from that meal, rather than just exchanging money. Now imagine that happening for every single exchange, everything that you do in a day that you pay some money for, buying a cup of coffee, a pint of beer, your gym membership. If you couldn't pay money for that and we lived in a barter economy, the whole process of exchanging goods and services would be slowed down, and it'd be hard to match buyers and sellers together. So it's important also to remember that money is arbitrary. It's the only difference between a pound coin and £1,000 is actually just the value of goods and services that you can get for that pound or £1,000.
Yeah. So there's an interaction between buyers and sellers, and this is known as the market. So we're going to use Amazon in an example here. It connects buyers and sellers onto one platform. But there's obviously everyday examples, going to the supermarket, filling up petrol, pretty much anything is a market where there is, exchange
of money.
Yeah, exchange of money, and there's buyers and sellers. So now let's move on to the bottom half of the diagram. And in this scenario, the demand and supply roles are reversed.
So in the bottom half of the diagram, firms actually now demand the use of factors of production that are owned by the households. So these include labour. So for example, you, an individual, offer your time in exchange for a wage. You may own some land, or households own land that firms want to operate from. They might want to put a warehouse there, open a shop there, and that would be in return for rent. And also capital. So you'll have a wage, you might want to invest that in a firm. This allows them to expand and grow their operations, and you will return or receive a dividend or an interest payment for use of that money. And again, we can use Amazon as example. It's a good example throughout this video. They obviously employ people in their warehouses. They employ delivery drivers, all in exchange for a wage. They pay rent for land that they operate their warehouses from, and they also rely on capital from investors to expand their business, and they will obviously pay a dividend or interest to those investors.
Yeah. So the flow diagram also helps to distinguish between microeconomics and macroeconomics. So micro is concerned with the composition of the circular flow. So, for example, what combinations of goods make up the goods flow? So what are people actually buying on Amazon? How the various factors of production are combined to produce these goods. So again, for Amazon, the combination of land, labour, capital they deploy for their operations. What's the biggest chunk of that? How much land do they need? How much labour do they need? and for who wages, dividends, rent, and interest they're being paid to. So wages across different jobs, rent in different locations, varying dividend income.
And whereas the macro side of things, the macro side of the flow, is just concerned with the total size of that flow, what causes an economy to expand or contract in the long term. So this obviously includes every firm within the economy, not so much focused on what land or labour or capital that specific firms deploy. We're just focused on the macro side of things, the total flow, so every firm within the economy. For example, with the current coronavirus pandemic, the size of the flow would have shrunk. The flows contracted during this pandemic. So we hope you've enjoyed that video and you've got some information from that you didn't already know. And any questions, as usual, leave them in the comment section. We'll be sure to get around to them. And thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching.